Okay, cool.
We're starting the presentation right now. We're going to broadcasting.
Good morning, everybody.
And then 1 second here. I'll do the live stream.
All right. Good morning.
Good morning. How you doing, Char?
I'm good. I'm in my bright and happy yellow today.
I know. Well, it's good to in honor of the end of the summer. So
yes, it is approaching what I call the Indian summer, which is my birthday period.
Oh,
and
nice.
I'm always really good about feeling the temperature change in the air. You know, it's kind of like, and I don't know if it has to do with the fact that my birthday is coming up, but I'm like the first to notice it. You know, it's like, here it comes. Temperature variance, kids are back in school, you know, time to, get your last days of summer in.
That's right.
So it's a fun time.
Hey, André.
Hi, André.
Hi. Although the weather is different, Char, I'm a little bit in the autumn colors. But I thought it's maybe a little bit contrast of.
I love it. So you've got like a subdued aqua, like my coffee cup, like this, but yours is a little more subdued. I love that.
Yeah.
How have you been, André? It's been a while. I haven't talked to you recently, so it's been awesome. We talk about you a lot.
I know. Sometimes I have the occasion just to tap in on the webinars, and of course I hear a lot from Wendy about what you guys are doing. Yeah, I mean, I had a very nice summer. My girls had a summer holiday of 13 weeks, and my girlfriend, my partner, she's the principal of a school, and she only had 4 weeks. So I've been a house father.
Your girlfriend is not lucky like your girls are.
I don't know. She's very happy with the job. I mean, I think it's an amazing thing what she accomplished. Here in Portugal, now she's the principal of a Portuguese school.
Oh, wow.
Very nice.
So within 2 years, her Portuguese is fluent, and the school is really happy with her, bringing in all the Nordic parenting and the Nordic vision on schooling. So yeah, we're doing fine.
Well, congratulations. I'm super happy for you. It's so good that your partner is so involved in supporting kiddos and helping them. And then I bet with your mindset, it's like you guys probably have some very great evenings talking about ways to coach and mentor our youth.
Well, of course we have the discussion, how do you identify the talents of the youngsters, and how can you create a safe environment where they can really blossom from the talents and explore. You cannot start early enough, right?
Oh, absolutely. I just think it's fantastic. You got to start at an early age, and I just can't imagine how fun those conversations would be. I mean, it's interesting because my employees are. It's funny. I'm one of the old people in my company. Although we are working on making sure that we have diversity in our company at all ages. We're really working, but it's fascinating when I realize it's like most of my employees are on the younger end of the spectrum. But I think we're ongoing learners. We're forever learners, right, André? Like we're always learning every day.
But that is the mindset, Char, that I really appreciate from you. As far as I can recognize this, there are 3 levels of development. And when you're young, it's all about getting socialized, finding your position. Right. And then the second level is the self-authorization, where you really think like, now I have a voice, I have an opinion, I have my experience that you want to share and contribute. And that is mostly done on managerial levels. And then the third level, and without being too fussy about it, but I think you reached the third level, Char, and that is the self-learning. And that means that you are eager to learn, but also to learn others. And that's the highest level of personal development, I think. And when you talk about diversity in different generations, I think it's perfect. When you look at the generations, we have the idealists, we have the realistics, we have the skeptical people, and we have the opportunists. You know, from the 80s, give me a chance and I can do everything. And if you have that together, you have the perfect cocktail for the business, right?
Oh, I definitely agree. And I think if you talk to any of my employees, I think they appreciate it because, you know, they feel something very different about our culture. And I attribute it to the TMA method, the fact that the way I communicate, the way we communicate, my leaders communicate. It's like, even yesterday, André, we were talking about the TMA and what we learned about each other's strengths, passions, drives. I mean, we have open dialogue at our meetings, and it's just been super, even though we're going through some challenging times operationally. The fact that it's like, that's why I'm wearing yellow today. It's like the light at the end of the tunnel, right?
Yes.
And so it's like at the end of every meeting I do, it's like the light at the of everything. So thank you so much.
Yeah.
It sounds like we're getting started.
well, I'm happy that the TMA provides you the right toolbox. But again, Char, and I've mentioned this before, it starts with the mindset. Then decide on what is the approach and what are our norms and standards for this. And then you can have a very good toolbox. But if you just work from the toolbox without the mindset, it will not work.
It's been fantastic to have the toolbox for sure. I can't even emphasize enough how refreshing it's been.
Okay, thank you.
Well, we are at the top of the hour, so I think we should go ahead and kick things off here. And so for our regular listeners out there, we have Jules is not able to attend because as we know, as those people that are regular listeners, she's in Hollywood and she does production and she's an actress and so forth. And so she is on screen right now doing a production for the next 2 weeks. And so we're just going to have to do without her for that period of time until she's back in the fold. So anyway,
it's very nice to be involved with like actresses and Hollywood people. I mean, hey, gosh, I mean, we're cool.
That's right. So anyway, to kick things off, welcome to the People Strategy Forum. We're here. We're a mastermind of leaders that are striving to make workplaces better, and we're making them happier workplaces. We're trying to develop them to be agile to the environments that are changing right now, which brings us to a very important topic that we have today and our special guest. But first, I want to introduce our hosts. Of course, those that are longtime listeners know Char Miller. She is the owner of Rocky Mountain Health Advocates. She is a long-term HR practitioner and talent specialist. She comes with a great deal of knowledge and expertise, and we're so happy to have her here. And then
thank you for always having me.
And we're also Sumit Singla. He's not able to join us today, but Sumit is a specialist, an HR specialist out of India, and has a long pedigree of expertise from companies such as Accenture and so forth. So, but he'll be with us next week. And myself, I'm Sam Reeve. I'm the owner of CompTeam. I am a talent and compensation expert, and I'm glad to bring these forums to you and these great discussions and speakers. And so, with our special guest this week is André Blom. He is the head of TMA International. The TMA method is a psychometric tool that is used globally, and it's a full talent suite that we're going to talk today about those different elements of where it supports and the importance of agile talent management in the world today and how important it is in the world today. So that's going to be the key topic. So welcome back, André. I mean, it's so great to have you here once again. And I know we've talked about this topic before, agile talent management, but it's important, I think, now in this context of where we are today as far as what's going on with the Great Resignation across the globe and what that's doing to the different practices. How should we think about agility in that perspective. And so I'd love to hear your view on this. But before we get started, for those that don't know you, can you tell us a little bit about yourself and your background and how you came to be a practitioner of TMA?
Well, thank you, Sam. And I have to say it's a little bit of a pity because we planned that I would be live with you in Denver this day.
Yes.
But we are all constrained by COVID. But nonetheless, how did I end up in talent management? Without going into too spiritual environment or context, I think I've always been working with talent management. That means that I always had the idea, like, if we could just tap in on really the potential of people and how to unite talents with each other, and create an environment where people can really blossom instead of restricting them from your own mindset or from process technology. I have done this, I think, all my life. I started my career in the Army, and there's where I got my first connection with talent management, caused by my instructors, because they are apparently capable of identifying, hey, this is where you are good at, this is where you get your energy from, let's put you in this role in this team and in this way. Later on, I became I did all kinds of instruction jobs, from diving instructor to ski instructor, firearms instructor. I was always busy and that started to become my red line. And after I left the Army, I joined the corporate world, working for a temporary staffing company. Maybe you know that, Randstad. And as I was identified as a talent, I was in such a high potential program. And then I got acquainted with the founder of Randstad, Mr. Frits Smeling. And I really thought that it was a privilege to meet him. And he said a thing to me that really caused a big impact on my life. He said, if we were only able to tap in the real potential of people and bring them in the right context, what can we accomplish? And not only on an economical level, but also on a level of social innovation. And that kind of kept in the back of my head and became a standard of my approach. And then when I met my two partners who founded the company, TMA, and who developed it as a psychologist and a business administrator who also studied a lot about laws, when I met them, that was for me the momentum to say, now I can really focus on this field of talent management, and this is where I am after 15 years. What I also appreciate quite a lot in my work is I am what you could call a digital native, or maybe you could evenly say I'm a digital nomad. Yes, I adapted to the digital world because I'm going around the world. I have always been in Zoom meetings and on and offline, and I visit all my partners around the world. And that gave me such a great insight on my own observation in listening to people, in trying to tap in and help them with talent management, that I got really a very broad perspective. I'm not saying that I'm the guru of talent management, far from that, because I still have a lot to learn. But that is how I built up my expertise around this.
Yeah, well, I think you're being
story.
Yeah, I think you're being modest. I mean, the experience of seeing different talent processes and practices across the globe, I think is a huge value in what's going on today. Because as we've noticed, a lot of businesses have come back online after having a slowdown of the pandemic, and they've found that now the world has opened up and quite a bit, and through the digital nature of work. A lot of companies in the United States, such as Google and Apple and many others, have decided that they're going to not just hire locally, they're going to expand their efforts to hire more at a global level, or wherever people want to work, they're going to go after the best talent in those different locations. And then, as we all know, the way that we think about talent and the way we operate in HR is different in those different regions across the globe. So as we think about agile talent management and the integral talent management, such as recruiting and sourcing and onboarding and teaming and the development and succession and right placement, when we're thinking about the total talent management journey, how has this evolved in the past few months, given the situation that we're in now?
Well, I think it evolved exponentially. And that also, I will come to that later, and it has to do with how to work in an agile way. It is one of the things is reimagine your business, because we are living in a VUCA world where volatile, uncertainty, complexity, even ambiguity. And this uncertainty is actually a driver for companies who want to survive, but not only survive, want to thrive in this new environment. They have to constantly reimagine their own business model, their business capacity. And I think that people came to realization from managerial perspective that the true resource is really human capital. Actually not. The true value is social capital. And that is the combination of the human capital in collaboration. And this is the big challenge that I see around the world, as people cannot be face-to-face together anymore. How does your team tick? And do you know how they tick? And you can, if you take it back a little bit, Sam and Char, what makes people feel good? When they get attention, but sincere attention based on their contribution. And if you are working together, people can see, and also a manager has his normal observation skills. He can see, he can witness, he is there to see, like, do I need to give a stimuli? Do I need to include you? Are you with me? Yeah. But if you're working at home and people are not really capable of doing the integration of private life and personal life, then they feel like a little bit like outcasted. And how do you get around with that? So in order to work on talent management in an agile way, I will go into details further. That is the big challenge that companies are facing. The whole structure in how to configure a good organization with on and offline, being on the office, not on the office. That is, of course, a challenge, and to make sure that you have the right business capacity, that the processes and the systems are working. But it's also about, how do you have the right culture and the right leadership for that? Because it is a challenge. How do you, as a manager, make the observation if your staff is really engaged, on board, to contribute in the team performance?
Right. Well, I love the way you say this, because in my former corporate experience, we had massive teams, talent management, change management type of teams with all the change management tools. I'm sure we could rattle off a good 7 models. And but when you truly become a business leader and you really are faced with the real challenge of change management, agility in the workforce, managing your employees in a VUCA environment, really capitalizing on the talent of the expertise in your employees around innovation, change, agility, and the strength of knowing that we can conquer through the unknown is a very interesting phenomenon. As a former corporate HR leader, and now as a true executive leader of a company that's been thriving through the epidemic, having the conversation with your employees saying, you are vital, your talent and your drive and your passion and ambition and what you bring to the table is going to help us conquer through this at this time period. And the conversation I had with my employees yesterday is we need you. We need your talent. We need your expertise. We need your mindset. And that's the company is relying on each and every one of you, no matter what your title is, because you are going to help us succeed and thrive through this period. And it was fascinating when, now that I have the TMA for most of my employees on the back burner, my employees are now being able to talk about the fact, well, you know, I'm an innovator, or I'm a problem solver, or I'm detail oriented, or I'm good at delegation. I'm a good researcher. And just being able to have that conversation with your employees at all levels of the organization, I think is the reason why we're doing fine during this period.
That's
Even though it's kind of scary, but we're doing fine.
Can I stipulate on a thing, Char? You said a very essential thing. You said a very essential thing in talent management, and that is your contribution, your talents is needed for our business objectives.
Right.
Because, you know, maybe I should frame a little bit, and I don't want to fall down into a semantic discussion, but what is actually talent management? And there are different perspectives on it. And of course, I have an opinion about it. I really want to voice how we think about talent management, and how it's not only for the individual, but it's for the individual to align with the business objectives. Mm-hmm. It is the individual to align with the team. Because you can also state that performance is not a result of an individual, but it is the impact of a joint effort. And that is the kind of mindset that I think is sometimes, or a lot of times, failing. You can see that talent management is often brought as like, we do something for the people. It's like an employee value proposition. We do talent management, but there should be a balance, right? Mm. And let me try to explain this. Is that okay?
Yes,
sure. Yeah, please do. We love your drawings.
the perspective of talent management. Now we can say, like, you know, there are people and they have some kind of star, right?
Yep.
We can say, is that a talent, or has one person several talents with him? So that is the one thing. And a lot of people, and that has to do with input or output. Input or output. Mm-hmm. We believe, that is our philosophy, that people have a natural talent. It is natural. It's not nurtured, it's natural. It's where their potential is. And to measure a talent, you cannot do that by their performance per se. Because if you don't provide the right tools, the right environment, people will not blossom, and they will, you know, their talents are not coming to the full potential.
Right.
As an example, I've used that before. Messi is an outstanding player. Ronaldo is an outstanding player. They are talented. They have different talents, physically, strategically on playing in the field, knowing their position, they have the skills. Put them in a third league team. They will not blossom like they do now. Mm-hmm. They need an environment. So it's also what we say, like, it is not universal. No, it is contextual. Talent management is contextual. And that is what I was trying to emphasize on, Char, what you said, like, we need your talents for our business, right? And then there's something else. Sometimes companies have this strategy. They have a lot of resources, and then they say, like, well, we put the lights on you. We call this exclusive talent management, and we don't think that everybody has talents. And that is a difference with TMA. We say, like, everybody has talents. We call it inclusive.
Yes.
Inclusive talent management. That doesn't mean you cannot have a special program for your critical positions, or for leadership, or for your technical people, or no matter what kind of skills that they have. But we believe everybody has talents, but the big question is, for what?
Yes.
And in what kind of context? And the context is not only the assignment, but it's also the team, right? Mm-hmm. So when we talk about the true talent management, it needs to balance between the potential of your organization and the business objectives. and that the business objectives are changing every year. So how do you make sure that your business capacity in terms of human capital is aligned with your strategy, right?
Mm-hmm.
So we believe in inclusive talent management, that a person is not a talent, but he has exceptional qualities that differentiate him from the others. And this is another thing that you said, Char, in the beginning. We try to have a right spectrum of diversity. And that diversity should be identified by the exceptional qualities. And that is also doing something with people. When you feel that you are can have an exceptional contribution to the team, you feel in place, you feel engaged, you feel motivated because you can make a difference. And if you have a team that can help each other out with their exceptional talents, exceptional qualities, then you have the right diversity.
Well,
right?
I have to tell you, Andre, not to interrupt you. I'm just telling you that I identified that some of my employees were really good at delegating or problem solving. Other employees were not very assertive, but they were definitely more tolerant. Really analyzing the fact that tolerance in our organization was such a benefit. Other employees that were really good at like compliance and rule following, whereas other employees were really good at creativity or strategic initiatives. And it's definitely opened up our world to be able to talk about things not in a negative way. It's like, it's okay that if you're not exactly a great assertive person, but your tolerance is really going to help our organization thrive through this change. And I think employees have felt like or leaders as well, I feel more engaged because I have a contribution to this team and I'm going to help this team in my own talents and my little star, as you say, what I can bring to this team. And it's been fascinating to actually apply it because I don't think that a lot of companies, I think it's good from a practitioner standpoint and it's all in the textbooks, you know, talent management textbooks, back when we were taking our master's degrees or whatever, about what talent management was all about. But I feel that it's very, very different when you actually apply it in the real work setting. When you really apply it in an operational setting where you're seeing the talents are really driving the organization forward.
Yeah.
And that has been so rewarding.
Absolutely. Absolutely. I fully agree with you. And you, again, Char, maybe you should be on the stage because you mentioned again a very important topic. And that is what we call talent management is only working with positive psychology.
Right.
Yeah.
So you said it doesn't matter that you don't have these talents, you have other talents that contribute. And let's focus on that, what you're good at, where you're getting energy from, where you can contribute, because that will thrive us all. And if you would say to a person, you're good, but you're lacking this kind of talents, then you really get a challenge, because what is the person saying then? What can I do to develop my talents? How can I? That is a negative connotation.
Right.
And that will kill people.
I have to laugh at you, Andre, because if you remember when you were doing my review, I don't know if you remember this, but what did you say about Char? You said, we identified in the report that I like to be the center of attention. Right? That's when you're like, well, Char, you should be on the stage. You like to be center of attention. But I actually took that to heart, right? Because I realized that I don't want to be the center of attention in my company. I want my directors and my managers and my frontline leaders and my employees to be the center of attention. And so, on a personal level,
do you now remember, Char, what I just told you just before we started? You're on the 3rd level of personal development. You don't mind to be in the center as long as you can learn and you can teach that others are learning from you.
Yes, and I took that to heart, Andre, because I mean, just like in every single TMA and analysis, I think every single one of my employees, as I'm certified now, and I do this with everybody. Everybody says, no, I don't agree with this. I don't. In the end, they're like, wow, okay. From that actually is insightful. And even though I might not like the actual wording used, but yeah, it's been really exciting. And majority of my employees really appreciate these kind of discussions. And
Yeah,
so we're not just hammering people about numbers and this and that. We're talking a lot deeper, a lot deeper about themselves and their life and their career and what they want out of the world. I call it Vita Vision, right? Because it's called Life Vision. That's one of my emails, if you've noticed, is about Vita Vision. And, and I'm always coaching my employees to have that life vision about what they want with us and what they want with their own personal talents and what they want out of this whole experience with our company. And this has been a great tool to do that with.
Yeah, it is very important, and that is what I am saying. Like, you have to have this mindset, having this positive approach and having the willingness to learn from mistakes, to say, like, we go for it, we experiment, and when we make a mistake, we don't blame. There is a no blame policy, but we learn from it. And and it is not fluffy. It doesn't mean that you can have not your KPIs and that you cannot thrive and go ahead to accomplish your goals and your dreams. That should also be a very rational part to that. This is how companies make money. This is how they survive. This is how they can organize their existence. So it is not fluffy, but it doesn't mean you cannot have a very positive approach and create a team. And that is something that is also very important in talent management. There are actually, what I'm saying, there are 3 levels. There's the level of the individual. How can I tap in on the individual? And if people can work from the talents, that they can do the things where they're energized, where they feel comfortable, where they feel safe, then they will perform and they will contribute to the utmost. They will take the extra mile. But that is on the individual level. Now it comes to the team level.
Mm-hmm.
And this is something that strikes me on my travels through all the companies around our globe. When I ask teams, how many team sessions or teaming sessions or training sessions do you have with your team in the context of your work? I find it astonishing. Most of the time, none. People are just assuming as long as we work together on a day-to-day routine, we are doing the things. And then when I challenge my clients or customers or CEOs or VPs or whatever, saying, like, why don't you take, let's say, 4 or 5 times a year, 4 hours where you do some simulation, where you do some reflection, where you see, like, how can we learn from each other? Because that has to do with being agile. If you cannot reflect, I'm not talking about agile in terms of Scrum technology, but one thing that we can learn from Scrum technology is they take little sprints and they reflect after 2 or 3 weeks, every time when there's a process. Now, I'm not saying that in your running operations, you have to do that every 2 weeks, but think about it. The world has changed. People are working online, offline, remote, on the office. The teams are almost disintegrated because some are working at home, they don't see each other. So I think to survive and to really have a good strategy to go forward, you should have an agile approach in talent management. And that means that you have to do that on a level of teams. Train with the financial team, train with the marketing team, and engage your stakeholders in the company to say, like, how can we contribute? How can we prevent that things are going wrong? How can we improve? And let's train that. Let's project on what we have learned from our failure or from our daily process. And how do we do that? And I think this is a very strong position a team leader or a manager should take and advocate to do that on a regular basis. And that is also stimulating to create that psychological safety for people. Right. Because then they are in a natural environment. They are working contextual and not just by a fluffy, I should not say fluffy, not just by by an exercise on teaming, playing with balls or pulling a rope. Let's see who's the strongest. Mm-hmm. It is more like really going into the routines, really going through your processes, and find space that people have the possibility to step a little bit outside the spectrum of the process and say like, hey, we can do that in a more proficient way. We can do that in a way where it's maybe not now the right timing, but maybe with new technologies or maybe in half a year. So that you are really adaptable. And this is where I come, and I have a little framework for that later on. Actually, and again, it's not a semantic discussion. Are we looking for being agile? Are we looking for being resilient? Or are we looking for being anti-fragile?
Right.
And I think that is an interesting part. Being agile, when you look at the dictionary, they say like, can you adapt to new circumstances?
Mm-hmm.
And if you are capable of doing that, then they are considered being agile. What is the market demanding? Are there new ways? Can you take the step forward? Can you be progressive? Blah, blah, blah. What is resilient? When there's something changing in your environment, can you bounce back? And I use the metaphor of a tennis ball. When you hit a tennis ball, the moment you hit on it, the form of the tennis ball is changing and it bounces back to the original form. And that is not what we want with being agile. Actually, we want to be anti-fragile. When they hit on us, we come out stronger. That's the same as going to the gym. When you want to build muscle, you have to hurt your muscle, recuperate to get stronger, right?
Right.
So maybe agile and anti-fragile is the bridge between the structure and the human being. Can we help our teams, our human beings, to be anti-fragile so that we can bounce back, but in a stronger form? And I think that is also a very important mindset to have that, because that means you need to train. You have to go to the gym to create bigger muscles, right? You have to train to get a better performance. In this way, you create kind of an anti-fragile organization. Now, that was the second level. The first one was the individual. The second one was the team. And now it comes to the organizational level, where you really have a community of different, I prefer the triple A teams, where the teams are accountable, they are action driven, and they are adaptable, anti-fragile. When they work and you have these different kind of teams, on the organizational level, the leader, the senior leadership has to balance that. How do I go around with that? What kind of resources do I need? How flexible am I that the people are thinking outside the box in order to maneuver in our VUCA world? And for that, the organization needs data. So Sam, you just said like the TMA is using psychometrics. That is true, but there's only 10, maybe 15% of doing the orientation of identifying the talents. What we are trying to do is building the bridge between the organization and the people. And that means that as an organization, you have to be very clear on what you expect from people, but you also have to be very clear in the spectrum of their mandate, of the working circumstances. Are they allowed to take a step outside the box? And this is how talent management can come in place. Does that make sense?
It does. I mean, I think that's great, and just in the context you're talking about that, and actually, what Char said a bit ago about having that improved communication with your team, understanding what your team's talents are, and leveraging those talents, leveraging their strengths, and so forth. And then in this world where we're having this instability, where we're faced by the great resignation, as they're calling it, and people are thinking about leaving and so forth. It's more important than ever to have those stay interviews. As you mentioned, I think in our last discussion, André, of those stay interviews should be really in place of that performance evaluation. We should be thinking about having a discussion about how we can best use your talents in the organization. So how are you seeing those stay interviews being leveraged now? Among my clients, I'm influencing them to have discussions sooner than later about their importance to the company, their unique talents, and how they can apply those in the future. So it brings a sense of engagement so that a person might rethink their thought about leaving the company. What do you think about that concept?
How can I answer this in the best way? I'm going to answer this a little bit on a high level, Sam. I think a very significant element in this is what is the corporate culture?
Mm-hmm.
And is that aligned with the strategy? Because people are willing, if they have a perspective, to make a decision. And are you then willing to give them space so that they can voice their opinion? That they can share their objectives and their perspective with you. This is also how you can learn. So if you have what I see a lot in, what I witness a lot when I'm going around in companies, they have a kind of a HR cycle where they have these appraisal forms and all these kind of dialogues. But what I hear from people, that is also shown out of the surveys from employees, that what is asked, what is presented, does not really live in an organization. Mm-hmm. So they have it's not even a dialogue; it's almost a monologue. When they're having these appraisals, there's a disbalance. It is like I say something about you and don't say anything about me.
Yeah.
Or the organization. And, in that way, people are not getting the sincere attention that they need. Because it's not about what can you really contribute. It is mostly about this is the profile that we have, this is what you have to do, and this is what you have to do for the next 3 years. And Sam, you are in compensation and benefits, then people are rewarded by 3% raise or maybe category A to B leasing car, or these kind of materialistic compensations. But that is not what people are driving for.
Right.
People are engaged in a company when they're really getting sincere intention and they really feel that they can contribute, and that their culture, the environment where they live in, is meeting their norms and meeting their expectations for their own future. And this is how you balance this. That also means, on the other end, as an organization, if people cannot be aligned with what you want to do as an organization, how can you be fair and say, like, let's go for outplacement? Let's find you another environment where you can blossom, and I will help you with that. And that is something that people are not doing. Oh, then it's against, then the turnover becomes too high or whatever. There are all kinds of, and that should not be the case. There should be a nice flow. And if people have the right perspective that fits the company, go ahead. If people have a different perspective, go ahead, but let them in another way. And this is also how you create the flow. I truly believe, and that also has to do with diversity. It is about not only professional cohesion in your team, but also social cohesion in your team. Mm-hmm. And when it comes to the ambition or the ideas or perspectives of people on their career, that should also be recognized and supported, or not. And that is fair enough. I'm happy to play football, but I will never get a position in Barcelona. I would be crazy if I would do that, because I cannot contribute, right? Yeah. So people have this, they know where their capabilities are lying. So help them instead of keeping them with a dialogue, what do you want to do, and blah, 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 and not making it true. Yeah. Not making it concrete. So I think in that way, when it comes to the issue of retention, retention dialogue for me is, what have you learned last year? Are you still in your place? How can I give you a different task, a different assignment, a different context to work so that you can grow again? And if that's okay with you, and I do that with my whole team, I lift my whole team. And that is what people feel like, hey, we are recognized. We're not just a number who has, as a machinery, who has to do things. So when it comes to these kind of dialogues, yes, they are essential, but it has to be done from the right perspective, from the right culture, from the right strategy, and with the right intention. It has to be a fair dialogue. And I'm not blaming people or saying that they are fooling around, but there's also a reality, right? Managers are managers because they are good in their job and they have to keep the things together, they have to perform.
Yeah.
But are they really those people who can really develop people or redefine the task and assignments? Therefore, we need senior leadership. Therefore, we need the experts to tap in, right?
That's right.
Does that answer your question, Sam?
It does. But I do have another question from the audience. I mean, as we're in this VUCA world, as we're looking at these new systems that are coming out and performance management techniques and different things like this, we're being faced with the adaptation or using technology in our practice. And so some of these, and one of the questions that came out is some of these technologies may leverage AI or artificial intelligence. And what are your thoughts of how AI can be used? Can it be used in performance management? Is that possible, or is this more of a relation between humans?
I think it can definitely work. Without going too much in the specific details, artificial intelligence, you need data, you need to have clean data. And then artificial intelligence can come with certain kind of algorithms and with that you might not think as a person, right? Mm-hmm. If you look at the workforce, how I look at the future, there's going to be a lot of automation. And then the new workforce is going to exist on the hybrid employee, the one who can make the connection between the data, the technology, and the human side of it. And then you have the people who deliver the service. Now, when we have all this data together, then we can really use analytics. And that is a big thing. For me, HR analytics is the first step before you can come to artificial intelligence. Because if you do the business, the analytics, the HR analytics, in saying like, what kind of talents do we have on board? How are the correlations between our performance, our business capacity? There's also something like tested knowledge in that. And what do I mean with tested knowledge? You can have the data that is very rational, explicit, but you also need the vision and the insights and the expertise of people to come to an analytics. When you have that level reached, then you can build up on artificial intelligence, say like, can I be supported as an organization by artificial intelligence on top of my analytics to give me new perspectives? So I definitely think that is the case. What I see in the world, as far as my knowledge go, and I'm definitely not an expert of this, but I do get a lot of questions. Can you help us with data? And can you provide something with machine learning and artificial intelligence? We are getting onto that level, but it is not an easy job. It is still a underdeveloped world, but it has great potential. But as an organization, I would say like, try to step down first and make sure that you have your right talent data available, that you are capable with different kind of expertise from the business to do the analytics, and then go up to the level where you have machine learning and artificial intelligence. But data is going to be a driver for companies for sure.
Yeah, I totally agree. I really,
inevitable.
Yeah, I really like the aspect of being data driven, but of course, we need to look at that data and see where it's taking us. Is it driving us in the direction of our values and our mission and where we plan to go as a company and our guardrails that we put down as far as our talent practices? I think that it can be very telling, but we need to understand that in the human context of what's going on.
Exactly. Let's give me a very simple sample. If you are a manufacturer company who is assembling things with process technology and where you have people doing the process operators? Do you need a large group of innovative people? Probably only a small group. But if you are in terms of a consultancy firm giving consultancy advisory level to companies to blossom and to innovate, your group of people, the threshold of creative and innovative people should be bigger than on a manufacturing company.
Mm-hmm.
There is no devaluation in are you creative or innovative, or are you more structured and process orientated? But it is aligned to the business. And from that kind of data, you can say, like, what is my strategy? What do I expect from people? What kind of behavior, natural behavior talents do I need? And from that data, you can say, like, am I choosing the right strategy for my company based on my work capacity, on my social capital, or is it in this balance? And when it's in this balance, you have to use that data to make sure that those elements are aligned. Yes.
Yes.
Yeah. Something popped up in my mind, but that is going maybe a little bit too far. But
no, that's great. So back to the context of having an agile and resilient companies and having a integral talent management process that is going to be flexible and adaptable in this current age. What can you tell us about making sure that you have a model, or what are the first steps to consider in developing that model?
I don't believe so much in consecutive steps.
Okay.
I have more an holistic approach.
Mm-hmm.
You cannot say step one is this in order to become agile. But let's take a company. Can you actually see my drawings?
Yes, I can. You can see that.
Okay. Let's call this a brand, an organization, a house, and let's open the door of the house. We open the doors, and what we see in most of the organizations, there are different kind of levels. Let's say the board level, then managerial level, and then really your workforce, right? Now, what kind of elements should be there? And now I'm actually drawing this kind of structure, right? Scientific management structure, top down.
Mm-hmm.
What you need to become agile is to make sure that the voice of this individual can contribute to the organization. And how do you do that? And I think for that, a very important element is your culture. And it's not me who said it, but the culture, and there's a strategy. And I'm not saying that strategy is not important, but strategy is breakfast for culture. If you don't have the right culture on board, then you can have a strategy, but then it will not come alive. And what do I mean with the culture? It's the way we do things with each other. Do we have a safe environment where we can all contribute? Do we have leadership that is aligned with that? And that is important. The culture is driven by leadership. And in this case, I would say, like, a leadership should be aligned with your talent management system. How do we appreciate talents? How do we identify talents? How do we give talent space? Mm-hmm. How do we create a professional and social cohesion in our teams to create really agile teams?
Yeah.
And with agile teams, I just said, I call this AAA. They are action driven with a lot of reflection and training. They are accountable, so they feel really responsible. They have an agency. All those people have an agency. I feel I have to do this. This is how I can contribute. This is my thing. And they should be anti-fragile. They should be adaptable. Mm-hmm. Finding other ways. This is my goal. If I cannot go in a direct line, then I can find my way around. If I have to step out of a system process, I have to do that. I have to have that space. And this is where leadership takes an important role. They should make sure that the framework, that the mandates are in place, they should listen, they should participate, and they should give people space. And it's not based on a democracy. You are a leader for a reason. Because people are voicing their opinion, it doesn't mean you have to follow that. If they voice an opinion, you can come with an argument that says like, I agree with your opinion or I disagree, and this is the way we go forward.
Right.
If you have that dialogue, that's the same as what you do with your children, right?
Right. I understand.
So that is leadership and culture. And then the other thing is the culture is actually creating your brand and your identity. How do you want to be? Oh, my identity, your brand. How do we think? How is the market perceiving your service? And that is based on how people are doing things. And what is culture driven? And this is an interesting thing. The culture is driven by the individuals who are in the culture. So when you can say like, what is the culture of Colorado? Or what is the culture of the USA? Of what is the culture of the Indian in the northern part, or Sri Lanka, or what is the culture of Mozambique? If you take that into an organization, you can say, what is our corporate culture? That doesn't mean that on micro level, on the team level, there is not a little twist or a little thing. So when it comes to leadership, the culture is driven by the behavior of people, their natural behavior, their norms, their values. So if you identify talents and you put it in a group, you actually have very good data to identify your culture. Now, what is on the other hand? And that is also what you said in the beginning, Sam, with this challenges that we have in the world caused by COVID, a lot of things accelerated. And what companies did, they reimagined how they should be configured. But this reimagine, how do we configure our organization? How do we define our processes? What is our working operating mode? That should be reimagined all the time, because the world is changing rapidly. The VUCA world is not just a buzzword, it is really a reality. And then the last thing, what you have to do is to create an agile workform. And what do I mean by that? Is that people are capable of saying like, how is our market responding? How are we doing it internally? What can we learn from our mistakes? What can we improve? And if there is no space for improvement or adjustment or learning or development, you cannot be agile. You cannot expect from people to be accountable if they've raised their voice and they're not heard.
Right.
If they take action and they are hold back and like, no, don't do that because that is not the system. That is not, then you will not operate them. So what I believe is in not self-steering teams. People need guidance, people need leadership, but they need to have some kind of space where they can really try things out within the teams on a corporate level. Yeah. So these are not consecutive steps like start with talent management and then create a culture, or then it is a holistic approach. So if you do something with talents, make sure that you also tick these boxes. And with the reimagine that comes from the Scrum technology, you can say it like that. We do take little sprints, we reflect, we project, and we adjust and we try.
Great.
Does that make sense?
It does. Thank you, André. So we are coming up to the top of the hour. I do want to acknowledge our speaker for next week and introduce them. And also I'd invite anyone that's online, if you happen to be on one of our social platforms, whether it be LinkedIn or Facebook or Twitter, or if you're here on the Zoom platform, please go ahead and put your questions, and we'll make sure that we get those answered for you. If you're on the Zoom platform, we can take those now. But let me quickly introduce our speaker for next week. And we have Dina Samuels that's going to be joining us. She is an expert. Dr. Dina Samuels is an expert on diversity and inclusion. And she's going to be talking about those tools for leaders. very important in this time and space to ensure that we know how to have D, E, and I and this hybrid environment, in the environment we have a remote workforce. And so please join us next week for Dr. Dina Samuels to learn more about how to have those tools for your leadership. Now, one thing that I want to point out here, André, as we come to the top of the hour, let's see, as far as there's a question from our audience on transparency. And as far as the systems that we use, and specifically artificial intelligence, if we're using a system with artificial intelligence, is that something that we should make sure that our workforce is well aware of? Are there, things related to that? What are your thoughts there?
People are engaged when they feel they are not excluded. And of course, there are different kind of levels of knowledge that you can share. But if the receptionist doesn't know what's going on in the organization, how can she represent your organization? I know that this is a little bit an abstract answer, but if you use these kind of elements like artificial intelligence and you get new insights from the technology, then take your time and your momentum to share that with the organization and try it out. It is a lot about experimenting together. Don't think that because this is coming from high technology that everything that comes out is solid and sound. It is something that you have to try to experiment. And take your time, do it, allow it after you experimented, allow some time to consolidate, and then do the proper implementation. This is how I would approach that.
Yeah.
And include everybody so that people know what is going on.
Right. I agree. I mean, there's many tools that we use on a regular basis in the workplace, but none of these tools we cannot delegate our authority, our accountability to these tools. We need to make sure that we're the one that are making the call for our people. And so I think that it's important when we're using these tools in context. I mean, it's great to be able to be transparent in those tools that we trust and so forth. But there's also sources that we don't quite trust completely. We think that they're directional, and we may use those in our analysis, but it's not something that is going to be a driving factor. And so I think that to be transparent or have full transparency in a lot of things could cause alarm. It doesn't mean that we shouldn't be transparent. It just means we have to have explanation, but we need to always retain our accountability for our decisions.
But maybe it's also the wording, Sam. Glass is transparent. And if you say, as an organization, we are transparent, you allow people to become a voyeur.
Yeah.
But a voyeur is not included. So when it comes to transparency, I'd rather say, we engage.
Yes.
And we share, instead of have a look at what we are doing and I'm not explaining it. You can just have a look at it. So, yeah. I mean, I know that it's a little bit semantic again, but transparency for me is something that is not based on interaction. And that is what I'm advocating.
Right. Well, André, it was a pleasure having you on as a speaker once again. So just as for people to learn more about the TMA method, I know that they can continue joining the People Strategy Forum. We talk about the TMA method all the time, but on other avenues where they can learn about TMA and so forth, what would you recommend?
Well, I know that after every seminar that we're doing here, you're always offering the present of the TMA. I want to add something, Sam, for the participants and on this session. If they are interested in finding out what it is to have their team assessed and be helped to do this agile, going ahead for this agile approach, I'm happy to support that for a selective part of the participants this time, Sam. To see if we can bring that to the next level.
Great. Yeah? So to our listeners out there, if you're interested in a team assessment, please reach out to me, sam@comteam.net. and we'll make that happen for you. We'll take those first several that we can handle in that as far as the team assessment, and we'll get you signed up. So first come, first serve. Email me at sam@compteam.net. Well, great. Thank you for the wonderful discussion once again, Andre. Always a pleasure to hear your expertise and explore your knowledge of the international scope of talent management. So thank you once
You're
again.
welcome, Sam.
Yeah.
You're welcome.
Yeah, thank
Sam.
you,
You're
Andre.
welcome.
I mean, you're definitely sitting in my team meetings. I can just tell, you know, everything what we're doing. So thank you so much.
Okay, Char. Thank you.
Thank you, everyone.
So much.
Thank
Okay.
you.
Have a nice day. Ciao.
You
You
too.
too. Thank
Bye.
you. Bye.
Bye.